Love in the Sky, Chapter 2. Strangers in the Elevator. Morning smells like rain pressed flat against glass. The window tries to be a mirror and fails. It gives me a distant version of myself, as if I'm standing 2 rooms away. I drag my finger through the condensation and watch a clear path appear, a bright vein in the fog, until the water gathers itself into a trembling drop and lets go. Gravity always gets what it wants. Jamie's jacket is still abandoned on the chair. The shoulders have collapsed into the shape of absence, the sleeves hanging with that particular heaviness neglected things adopt when they stop pretending to be useful. If fabric could sigh, this one would be doing it on a loop. He texted at 2:11 a.m. A single line. Won't make it back. Don't wait. No apology, nothing else but the flat voice he reserves for weather updates, shuttle times, and the distance between us. I typed, okay, held my thumb over send, and let the words sit there glowing, a small surrender I decided not to gift him. So I pour myself into work. I answer client emails with the clean, tempered kindness of a person who can be professional even when her private life is missing a floorboard. I fix a timelined inconsistency, escort 4 straight adverbs to the door, and leave a note for an author who will read my careful phrasing as a personal attack. Work is obedient. If I lay my hands on a sentence, it changes. If I move a comma, the breath shifts. I wish people came with track changes. Or love. By noon, the room's quiet stops being a companion and starts grating me. I pull on my Vans, twist my hair into a clip that promises to help and then threatens to give up, and step into the hallway. The carpet is soft, brown, unmemorable. I feel the same. I brace for all the unforgiving mirror angles of the elevator when the door slides open and I see him. Abel is leaned into the corner as if listening to the building breathe, earbuds pulled dark at his collar. He's holding a paper bag, neatly folded twice at the top, surprise flickering across his face that later fades into something gentler I can't name. Recognition is softer than surprise. It doesn't jolt the body. Science update, he says as the doors close. Vending machine was still proud of me this morning. The smile finds me before I can pretend restraint. I told you, it's consistent. I say like we're discussing whether I invented. He taps the bag. Want to help with one variable? Melon pan. I'm attempting to replicate yesterday's joy. I should say no, I tell him, hand already reaching. The bread is sweet and clouds into itself, a pillow of a thing that makes time stop acting like a knife. Dangerous habit, I add around a bite. Soon I'll be lurking outside your door, waiting for pastry. Bring coffee, he says, quiet laughter catching in his throat. We'll call it balance. Neither of us mentions how close our rooms are. When the doors open on my floor, I step out, and he shifts like muscle memory told him to follow, then corrects and stays where he is. Have a good day, Diana, he says. You too, Abel, I carried a taste of sugar into the hallway, the way you carry a secret. Warm, unnecessary, and very much impossible to forget. Afternoon becomes a list of errands I invent so I don't have to be alone with the kind of thinking that drags a person under. I take the soft gray hotel umbrella with the curved handle and walk until my calves ache and the city decides I belong. Tokyo accepts me without comment. Daylight mutes the neon, but won't let it sleep. The signs blink like they're stretching, rehearsing for their real life after dark. In a cafe with 6 stools and a counter scrubbed so often it shines, I watch a barista pour a white feather into brown, steady hands making a small miracle, and I drink it like faith. I write 3 sentences in my notes app, delete, and try to name this thing happening inside my chest. The name feels like a confession I'm not ready to sign. Back in the room, the minibar accepts my authority with a smug, electronic click and swings open like a door in a dream. I shut it again, victorious and bored. At 6:03 p.m., Jamie texts. Late again. Big night. Please be patient. Dinner tomorrow? I stare long enough for the words to split into shapes, black lines in little boxes, no meaning attached. I type, sure, and I send it because I don't have the energy to argue with a man who isn't there. The hours between 9 and midnight go thin and translucent. I read a novel I don't love and underline a sentence that has been following me for years anyway. At 12:58 a.m., I put on my oversized hoodie like armor and step into the soft-footed corridor. He's already in the elevator when it arrives. There we are again. 2 people pretending this is a routine because neither of us knows how to hold it if it's not. Club meeting, he says. Attendance taken, I answer. The bar greets us the way hotels do when they've decided to be kind. The bartender sets 2 Cokes down, a few seconds after we sit down at the bar. Ice clinks, the low music hums, and the conversation opens itself like a door with a familiar handle. What did you work on today? I ask. Percussion, he says, mouth twisting. I spent 4 hours trying to make a snare sound like it's apologizing without being pathetic. I laugh. Because only someone who cares about the shape of feeling would say that about a drum. Show me a sorry snare. He slides his phone across his palm under the bar and plays a clip at a secret volume. The song is only bones and breath, the suggestion of a body. The snare lands with that tiny catch, like a heartbeat that stumbled and refused to fall. It does sound sorry, I tell him, but in a handsome way. He looks pleased with my answer. It feels like I've won a prize in a game I don't remember entering. What about you? He asks. I wrote a note that says, I love this passage, and then suggests cutting it. I say. I'm the villain in someone's story today. Or the surgeon who removes the thing that would kill the rest. He counters, simple and sure. I'm borrowing that for my invoice. I tell him, and he grins into his straw before quiet finds us again and sits at the table like it belongs. Do you ever feel, he says after a moment, eyes on the condensation ring his glass is making. Like the person you're supposed to be waits just outside the room and you only catch them in the reflection when the door is closing. All the time, I admit. Sometimes I think it got bored and left without me. Where would it go? Somewhere my phone isn't proof I exist, I say, then look down so he won't see it hit me. You could turn it off, he offers. I could, I say. But then I'd have to live with my thoughts and no excuse. We share a smile that knows exactly what it's agreeing to. The joke, the wound, and the way they share a thin border. We drift into lighter waters for a while, like which ramen earns a pilgrimage or how umbrella etiquette in a crowded city is an entire moral philosophy. I mentioned that neon makes the rain look cinematic even when the night is ordinary, and that distance is sometimes the best lighting. He agreed. On the third night of our accidental meetings, he doesn't run towards the bar. He tilts his head at the revolving door. Record shop? He says. Come if you want. If you don't, I'll return with a heartbreakingly thorough bibliography. It isn't a date. It's an errand done parallel, a small rebellion against the hotel's promise that everything we need is under its roof. We step out into the careful wet night. The sidewalk smells like pepper and sugar and clean stone, the city humming at the frequency of people doing what they must to stay themselves. The shop is narrow, bright, the kind of organized clutter that makes reverence feel like the only reasonable posture. The man behind the counter nods at us, like we're regulars, as Abel moves through the bins like he's reading scripture. I hover a half step away, registering every almost touch of his shoulder through air, as if the weather were trying to tell me something. Pick blind, he says, closing his eyes. First thing your hand touches, and no cheating. I reach for a spine so worn, the title is more rumor than text. He smiles when he sees it. Good omen, he says, and sets it on the turntable behind the counter. The needle drops, a tiny ceremony, and a voice rises. A little cracked and alive in the way smooth things never are. We stand and let it climb into our bones, and I don't look at him, because listening is easier when you're not required to survive the look on someone else's face. What do you hear? He asks when side A is almost gone. Regret that learned to dance, I say, and relief. He nods like I've unlocked a door he didn't know how to open by himself, then lifts the needle as if he's handling a prayer. On the way back, we stop at a vending machine we don't need because we both like the feeling of a small machine telling us we did a good job inserting coins. The melody sings its 4 bright notes. We grin at each other like thieves who only took what the world owed them. Proof, miraculously, that we were here. Back in the lobby, we pause at the elevator like people who were about to test water. Thank you, I say, though I'm not sure which part I'm pointing my gratitude toward. The music, the walk, or the ease. Same time tomorrow? He asks. If I'm awake, I say. You're always awake. I don't argue. because accuracy deserves its win. The elevator opens on its small, mirrored future, and we step in, forward facing. Jamie's text arrives late, light as a pebble thrown at a window. You good? Two words, neither big enough for the question they pretend to be. I type, yes. It's my most dishonest sentence all week, and maybe the kindest. The next day is a loop with a different wallpaper. I work in the lobby because pretending to be public keeps me from slipping into the private nap I don't want. Abel passes once, with headphones on, sees me and lifts two fingers. It's barely anything, but somehow it feels like a knock only I can hear. I pretend my heart doesn't go running down the hall to open the door. We don't talk again until after midnight. This time, he brings onigiri like an agenda item, and we sit on the mezzanine steps, looking down at the lobby, as if it were a theater and we were the only ones who bought tickets. We argue about whether music belongs more to the maker or the listener. He says both, because a thing is born and then adopted. I say the listener, because meaning lives where it lands. He carefully listens to my defense like cross-examination is foreplay, then asks, what do you do with a song you can't hear the way everyone else hears it? You wait, I say, or you let it go. Letting go is expensive, he murmurs. So is staying, I answer, and wish I could pull the line back into my mouth. He doesn't press. He tears the seaweed with his thumb, clean and decisive, then changes the subject to a dumb meme so we can both breathe. On the fifth night, the city takes us hostage in Shibuya, and we let it. We stand on the island and watch the crosswalk do its impossible choreography. People pour past like a river convinced it's made of ankles and decisions. As a girl with pink hair laughs so loud, strangers have to pretend they didn't hear it. A man in a suit runs with his briefcase open and loses nothing. A couple in their 60s holds hands like it's a contract they're renewing. This is my favorite song, Abel says, lifting his phone just long enough to catch 10 seconds of proof. What do you do with all those? I ask. Remind myself I was there, he says. Some days I feel like a rumor. Video is evidence. Maybe I should film more, I say. Or live a little less for proof, he offers. Not a correction so much as a blessing. I let his suggestion sit on my shoulder like a bird that hasn't decided whether to trust my hand. Sometimes I feel guilty for being happy when I didn't plan it. He looks at me as if the answer lives somewhere behind my eyes. Happy now? Yeah, like breathing isn't a job. I don't think you owe misery or loyalty, he says, even if you loved it first. We walk back slower than we came. The rain rests a cool palm on our shoulders and keeps us from inventing speed. Under the porte cochere, he shoves his hand into his pockets like he's trying to stop them from saying too much, and finds a smile that belongs to the unguarded version of him. Good night, Diana. Good night, Abel. Our names are starting to behave like answers. like the end of a sentence that doesn't need punctuation to be complete. Jamie is in the room when I return. For a second, my brain blue screens. I forgot his presence had weight. He looks up from his laptop, eyes rimmed in the color of too many tomorrows, and arranges his mouth into a smile that doesn't travel. Hey, he says, you're up. I'm always up. I answer, softer than I feel. Shoes off, spine straightened, the muscle memory of us stepping into place. How was your day? Insane, he says, rubbing his face with both hands like he's trying to exhume himself. We're close. Tomorrow might be D-Day. You said that yesterday. The sentence escapes its crate and runs. He flinches like it bumped a bruise he was trying not to notice. I know, he says. I'm trying. I don't know how to say that trying and choosing are different verbs with different costs. I don't know how to tell him I miss the version of him that used to look at me like I was a fact, not a witness. I pour water into a glass and drink like hydration is a compromise. He tells me about servers, load, partners, and the endless appetite of a world built on code. I nod like a kind person would. After he finally closes the laptop, he kisses my forehead with the distracted affection of a cousin at a family reunion. I take a shower and let the water write questions on my skin I have been folding and refolding. What am I trying to save? Who would I be if I stopped waiting? How much of me is still mine? We lie side by side like people napping in different rooms. His breathing tugs at sleep like a child retrieving a blanket. I stare up and draw new constellations with my eyes, tiny punctures in the dark, naming them. On the seventh night, at 1:02 a.m., I text Abel a single word. Elevator? My hand shakes afterward, as if I just signed a confession. He replies with an elevator emoji and a breath later. 1 minute. The minute fattens itself with nerves. I can hear my pulse in my teeth. And when the elevator doors part, he's there. Hands in pockets, hair a little rebellious, like sleep tried to claim him and failed. We don't say much. We don't have to. The bar is a ceremony we perform so we can sit someplace we've sat before and pretend that ritual is innocence. How was your day? He asks. Like being told to wait without an estimated time of arrival. I say. You? I tried to write something honest and accidentally wrote something good. He says, wary of his own luck. I don't trust it just yet. Why not? Honesty and goodness rarely arrive holding hands, he says. Not at my door. I'd like to visit your house, I say, and then blush, because sometimes the mouth outs the heart's handwriting. He just nods like the sentence earned the right to exist. We talk until the hard parts inside of me feel less sharp. I don't touch him and he doesn't touch me. We are only volunteers in a study we refuse to name. When we stand, he reaches to steady my empty glass and our fingers bump. It's nothing, and it's a match anyway. I can feel the heat of it 3 floors up. Back in my room, I set both hands on the desk and breathe until my heart stops sprinting toward futures I haven't chosen. The window holds the city's pulse steady, and I try to match it with mine. My phone lights with a message from Jamie I don't open. I turn the screen face down and whisper to the finished rain, "I'm not a bad person," as if the volume could make it true. Morning returns like it always does, unimpressed and inevitable. The lobby smells like lilies and lemon and clean clothes as I work from a chair near the fountain, listening to the sound of water pretending to be nature. Abel walks through and doesn't stop. He's learning my restraint right when I want him to forget it. In the afternoon, I climb to the mezzanine and stare at a minimalist canvas. I think about choices and their taxes, how staying is expensive, how leaving is too. That love is supposed to make you larger, but I have been shrinking, expertly and in plain sight. At dusk, the city clicks its lights on and pays the attention. I do. The reflection in the tall glass shows me alone and not lonely for the first time in months. It terrifies me. That night, when the elevator opens, we don't pretend we were headed somewhere else. We sit and lift our faithful cokes like a quiet toast to the ordinary miracle of two people choosing the same chair, the same hour. Our conversation descends without splashing. He tells me about the first beat he ever made that he didn't hate, how he played it on repeat in an empty room and felt for 3 entire minutes like he had put something true into the world of replicas. I tell him about the first book I edited that landed in strangers' hands, how I watched them underline lines I'd fought to keep and felt, maybe for the first time, that invisible work could still cast a shadow. When I finally go upstairs, I realize I'm not sneaking. I'm moving inside a choice, and the difference is small and everything. I brush my teeth and watch my mouth form ordinary shapes in the mirror. Then I finally climb into bed and lay my hands flat on my stomach. Just before sleep lifts me, the thought returns. Not a warning this time, but a simple acknowledgement. I am part of a story I can't unknow. We are still innocent. We are also already changed. I tell myself I am collecting fragments, not futures. I insist that two people can share a night's weather without borrowing tomorrow. Outside, the rain is only a rumor. Inside, I am both witness and evidence.